The Book of Kells by me, Finn Brosnan. Introduction. Throughout history, cultures have faced great hardship. There have been extreme attempts to erase their traditions, including their languages. In this presentation, I will examine the ancient Irish manuscript known as the Book of Kells, and with it, the legend of Irish hero Finn McCool. These stories contributed to the preservation of Irish culture through art and origins of storytelling. I will also compare this to how First Nations people have kept their traditions alive despite facing great challenges similar to that of ancient Irish people. This illustrates the significance of struggle, the value of storytelling, and art of preserving cultural identity. What is the Book of Kells? Created around 800 AD by Celtic monks, the Book of Kells is an account of Celtic history. The creation of the Book of Kells was likely started on the island of Iona and moved to Kells, Ireland. It is a heavily illuminated manuscript containing the 4 Gospels in Latin. Renowned as one of Ireland's finest national treasures and a masterpiece of medieval art. An illustration from the Book of Kells. Note the fine detail. This is a map of Great Britain. The arrow is pointing to the island of Iona. You can't really see it though, it is very small and can't really be seen on a map. However, on the top right corner, I have a map of Iona. You can see that it has Lona Abbey and the nunnery, which is where the Book of Kells was started, and then was moved to Ireland, and where it was completed in Kells. How does this book show Irish artistic skill and belief? The Book of Kells is one of the most detailed and well-known examples of a style of art called insular art and knotwork. Insular art was developed in Great Britain and Ireland after the fall of the Roman Empire. The word insular comes from the Latin word insula, which means island, because this artistic style was created on the island of Britain and Ireland. During this time, monasteries in these regions developed a unique artistic style that was different from the rest of Europe. From about the late 500s to early 800s, monks in Ireland and Britain, as well as in some monasteries on the mainland of Europe, founded by Irish or Anglo-Saxon groups, created manuscripts and artworks in this distinctive style. This is an example from the Book of Kells. It shows intricate knotwork. Celtic art and symbolism. In the Book of Kells, Celtic knots are one of the most noticeable design features. These detailed interwoven patterns have no clear beginning or end, which symbolizes eternity and the interconnectedness of life. In a Christian context, the monks who created the manuscript likely used these endless designs to represent eternal life and the idea of resurrection. The knots also reflect older Celtic beliefs about the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. Even though the Book of Kells is a Christian text, it includes artistic traditions of pre-Christian Ireland. This shows how Irish culture blended older Celtic symbolism with Christian teachings. The endless loops visually represent how life, faith, and spiritual world are all connected. The artwork in the Book of Kells is not just decoration. The monks used animals and natural symbols to represent Christian ideas like resurrection, the power of Christ, and the battle between good and evil. The images helped people understand religious messages in a visual way. Why this 12,000-year-old book is actually cool. It was stolen. In the year 1007, the Book of Kells was stolen from a monastery. It was later found buried underground, but its jeweled gold cover was missing forever. It has tiny hidden animals. There are tiny cats, mice, birds, snakes, and other creatures hidden in the designs. Some look playful, others look like they're fighting. It's like a medieval Where's Waldo. It took years to make. Scholars think it may have taken several monks years, maybe even decades to complete it. No computers, no printing press, just handwritten pages. One single decorated page, the Chi Rho page, is so detailed that it may have taken months just to complete that one page. There are mistakes. Even though it's famous for being beautiful, there are spelling errors and unfinished sections. Proof that even masterpieces aren't perfect. The ink was made from crushed bugs. Some of the bright red ink may have been made from crushed insects. Other colors came from rare minerals imported from as far away as the Mediterranean. It wasn't meant for everyday reading. It was probably more for ceremony and display than for practical reading. It was meant to inspire awe, not just deliver information. It is on display in Trinity University in Dublin. You cannot take pictures of it. Who was Finn McCool? Finn McCool was the legendary leader of the Fianna, a famous band of warrior hunters in Irish mythology. He is known as a brave and wise hunter, warrior poet, and celebrated in many ancient Irish legends. It is said that he had two constant companions, two huge Irish wolfhounds. One of his most famous stories is about the Salmon of Knowledge, a magical fish that gained all the world's wisdom after eating golden hazelnuts. Finn gained its wisdom by eating the salmon. Finn is deeply connected to the Irish landscape and is said in legend to have created the Giant's Causeway in Northern Ireland. The person you see in the picture above is Finn McCool. The two Irish wolfhounds on either side of him are Bran and Sculling. Bran means raven and Sculling means survivor. They were both human and Finn's cousins, but got transformed by a spell. Why do heroes like Finn McCool matter to a culture? Heroes like Finn McCool are important to a culture because they represent the values that society admires, such as bravery, wisdom, and strong moral character. These legendary figures help people feel connected to their shared history and traditions. By linking their stories to real places in the landscape, they also create a strong connection between the land and cultural identity. Storytelling in Celtic culture. For many centuries, Celtic storytelling was mainly an oral tradition, meaning stories were spoken, not written. Storytelling in Celtic culture. For many centuries, Celtic storytelling was mainly an oral tradition, meaning stories were spoken, not written. Stories help pass down history, laws, family lines, belief, and moral values in a time when most people could not read or write. Storytelling was especially important in Ireland and Scotland, where myths and legends shaped cultural identity. During the Middle Ages, Christian monks carefully recorded many of these stories, which helped preserve them for future generations. Storytelling became even more important during the times of social, political, and religious change, helping Celtic culture survive. Is there a direct link between Finn and the Book of Kells? Finn McCool does not appear in the Book of Kells. The Book of Kells is a Christian manuscript, while Finn comes from Irish mythology. However, both come from early medieval Ireland and reflect the same cultural traditions of storytelling, symbolism, and connection to the land. Monks who created manuscripts like the Book of Kells later recorded many Irish myths, which helped preserve stories about Finn. I chose to include Finn McCool because he is my namesake, and exploring his story helped me connect personally to my Irish heritage. Even though there is no direct link between Finn and the Book of Kells, both represent how Irish culture has survived through storytelling and art. Hardships faced by Celtic people. During the Viking Age, 795 to 1014 AD, Celtic communities in Ireland and Scotland faced violent raids, destruction of monasteries, and the kidnapping of people into slavery. Norman invasion of Ireland, beginning in 1169, brought new military power that changed Irish society and weakened traditional systems. For centuries, Ireland and parts of Scotland were ruled by England and later Britain, which led to the suppression of Gaelic language and culture. Traditional laws, social structures, and cultural practices were restricted or discouraged or even banned. Despite these hardships, Irish culture survived through storytelling, language, and tradition. In 795 AD, Viking raiders attacked the monastery of Iona. They returned again in 806, and many monks were killed in what became known as Martyrs' Bay. These attacks were some of the earliest events of the Viking Age, a time when Scandinavian warriors frequently raided Christian monasteries across Europe for valuables and supplies. First Nations traditions and storytelling. Oral storytelling is a foundational part of many First Nations culture. First Nations art, such as carvings, beadwork, weaving, and painting, also tells stories and preserves cultural identity. Elders and knowledge keepers play an important role in sharing and protecting these traditions. These are some examples of First Nations artwork. Comparing the two cultures: Celtic, Irish culture, oral myths like Finn, art in the Book of Kells, culture survived invasions, and stories connected people to the land. First Nations cultures, oral history and legends, art in carvings, beadwork, and weaving. Culture survived colonialization, and stories connected people to the land. Both cultures use storytelling and art to protect their identity and culture. Comparing the two cultures, both Celtic and First Nations cultures faced invasion, colonialization, and attempts to suppress or even swipe out their traditions. In Celtic culture, stories like the legend of Finn McCool and art such as the Book of Kells helped preserve identity. In First Nations culture, oral storytelling, language, and traditional art have protected knowledge and values across generations. Even during times of hardship, storytelling remained a powerful way to keep culture alive. When cultures are threatened, storytelling becomes an act of resilience. Personal reflection. I was surprised by how similar the hardships faced by Celtic and First Nations people were. I also learned how diverse the rich Celtic culture is, especially through its art and storytelling. I feel honored to be named after Finn McCool and to have Irish ancestry connected to these traditions. This project taught me that culture must be protected and remembered. When stories and traditions are preserved, identity survives. Conclusion. The Book of Kells and the Legend of Finn McCool show how Irish culture was preserved through art and storytelling. Even during invasions and centuries of outside rule, Irish traditions survived because people continued to pass down their stories. Similarly, First Nations peoples have preserved their culture, language, and traditions despite colonization and residential schools. Both cultures demonstrate that storytelling and art are powerful tools for protecting identity and keeping history alive. Thank you.